Herzlich willkommen zur Impropedia.
Informativ, spannend und unterhaltsam.
Und hier ist Ihr Showmaster Thomas Jäkel.
Hallo, herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass ihr da seid hier bei der Impropedia heute. Ja, aufregend. Ich bin aber nicht alleine. Das ist gut. And that will be the last German words tonight, because this Impropedia tonight, hello, hello, is in English, because we have guests from far, far away. And with me tonight to welcome them all is Sarah, the chat master. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Thomas. How are you?
I'm feeling great because it's a show I'm looking forward so long, and I'm so happy to have these guests. So yes, I'm nervous a little bit, and I'm also freaked out. How are you feeling tonight?
Good. I'm doing this the first time from my home, which is strange, but of course, you didn't hear that.
No. It seems you've been in Kutze already. You should.
Of course.
Yes, and so we have the Impropedia. What's the kind of show? I think people are watching mostly are familiar or know what the show is about. It's about an expert we invited, meet improv players, and we have an expert tonight. And I think we say hello to him first. From Berlin, I think he's coming to us. It's Jan. Hello,
Hi.
Jan. Hi.
Good evening.
Yeah, you're actually in a forest at the moment.
No, not really. I'm in a park, but we're going to come to that.
We talk about the park later on. Yeah, perfect. Good that you're here. Thank you to follow our invitation. And we're going to talk about your topic tonight, but we didn't disclose it yet, because the player waiting also didn't know what your expertise will be and what's the topic of the whole show will be tonight. So they are really I think they're nervous also. They don't know what's going on. So let's bring them on stage and see what your topic is about. But first we say hello to them all. Hello. And first I want to introduce you, Rebecca Stockley. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Thomas.
You're actually now in San Francisco, is it right?
That's right. I am right next to the Pacific Ocean.
And can you see the Golden Gate Bridge from your apartment? Can you see it?
If I take about 50 steps from my front door, I see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Are we all jealous now? And can you tell me what the weather is at the moment?
It's well, on this side of town, it's gray. It's high overcast, so you can tell there's sun up there somewhere, but it's not right here.
Okay, I asked some of your fellow players if there's better weather at the moment, because San Francisco could be like different weather in every part of the city. So who's with you, Rebecca?
I'm gonna throw it over to Tim or.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I am over in the Mission, Thomas, even before you ask. See it? That's San Francisco. Can you see it?
Yes, we see it. All
right. It's pretty sunny over here.
So you're not so far away from Rebecca, but it's sunny. So it's a crazy city you have over
Microclimates.
And when was you was the last time in Germany in February? Is it right?
February of last year. Yes. I was there doing some workshops and seeing friends. Uta helped me put on a workshop there and in Ball. That was last February.
Crazy. But good that you've been back, because you've been in Potsdam before. You were a guest on the Kutze stage before. So you actually have a kind of feeling where you now should be, actually.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Yeah, and it's great to be back. Thank you.
Throw it to another player. Who's the next?
All right.
Say hello.
The next player I want to introduce is our musician, Joshua Raoul Brody.
Hello, Joshua.
Hi. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. You are actually been in Kutze and Potsdam before also.
I fondly remember the backstage beer.
Yeah, the backstage of Kutza is really a remarkable place. It's small and tiny, and you really learn how to like or get along with your fellow players, or?
Yeah. It's very gemütlich.
Gemütlich. That's right.
That's right.
And you are the musical artistic director of Bats. So we have the pole position musician of Bats along with us tonight.
You won't be hearing a lot of words out of me, and I think I'm demonstrating why, but you'll be hearing my fingers.
Perfect.
I'm going to introduce my good compatriot, Dave Dennison, who's also been to Potsdam, I think.
I have not been to Potsdam. I've been to Germany, but I haven't been to Potsdam. Joshua, thank you, Joshua. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, and you're invited now to Potsdam, so come to Potsdam because you've been in Berlin before. We walked through the city.
Yeah.
And so you should come to Potsdam if it's possible someday.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Dave? Yeah, go ahead. Is there's someone else with you can you introduce?
Well, the man who needs an introduction right now, because he hasn't been introduced, is Ken Robertson.
Hi, Ken. Good to see you. We met last in 2019 in San Francisco, but you've never been to Germany before, is it right?
I have not had the opportunity. There was, probably 4 years ago, I guess, there was an opportunity for Bats to come out and do some shows and do some training. And when I first heard about it, I was so excited. I wanted to go so badly. And then I had a very big thing that came up, and I was right in the middle of when that was scheduled, and I couldn't do it. So yes, I am honored to virtually be there. This is the closest I have gotten so far, and I consider it a step in the right direction. But as soon as I can go further than 5 miles down the road, I will get to Germany.
Okay, so it's a word. I wait for you here. We do a show if you've been to Germany. I promise.
I've heard that. Yeah, I'll find you. I'll just stay on the couch. I'll be there.
Track me down. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for introduction, and welcome to Impropedia. And actually, now we want to disclose what's the expertise of Jan is, and what's the topic is. We dealing the whole night, and Jan, actually, it's we're talking about a lot, I think, just tonight, and I would say we're talking about post-colonialism. Is it? Can I say it this way? Yeah.
No, you wouldn't call it like that, but
first mistake in the first step.
There are different movements, but you could call it post-colonial critique. You could call it also decolonizing the urban sphere. You could call it, but this is like also when you go a bit further, there are theories of Black feminism, for example. All these are entangled together and are here for critique of the urban sphere, especially in the US, in Europe, in Australia, for example. Yeah.
And we're gonna have a few on Potsdam and Berlin tonight, mostly on Potsdam. So let's dive down into the topic and learn what is it all about. So yes, you can take a seat, dear improv players, and I'm gonna have a first interview with Jan. Jan, thank you that you've been here, and you're in postdoc. Actually, you working as in a university. Is it right? What are you doing there? What's your profession actually?
So thanks for the invitation, Thomas. Yes, I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Technical University of Berlin at the Institute for Art History. But actually, I was invited here as a member of a working group that is active in Potsdam, which is called Postcolonial Potsdam, or in German, Potsdam Postkolonial. And so I won't really talk about my research, but rather try to talk about the activist work that we do in Potsdam. And by the way, I don't pretend to represent the whole working group. We are 10, and we are 10 very different people, and we only have 2 white male members, and I'm one of them. And I must say that there are some areas where I wouldn't pretend being able to answer questions or being able to talk about this, such as experiences of racism, for example, because I've never had any, and I only have what I get from friends and colleagues. So yes, there's also another thing that I would say before we start the interview is I will try to use as much inclusive language as possible. So
Yes,
I would refrain from using words that you can find sometimes in the press or among right-wing, discourse, or even in the colonial archives, so in those old books, etc., and old archives and museums, for example.
So on the other hand, if teach me if there's something I have to learn. I know I'm actually I studied history and philosophy a while ago, but there's some discourses and things I actually find myself doing wrong. So please correct me, because I'm here to learn. That's the idea, if it's necessary. But before we start dive into the topic, let's talk a little bit about you. You're not from Potsdam, actually. Where are you from? Where you came to study here, or why are you working in a project in Potsdam?
Okay, so the question where you're from is actually like sometimes being criticized, but there are like many ways of defining yourself, and the question where you're from is being used time and again, and sometimes it depends to whom you ask it, but sometimes some people will feel like, no, that's where I'm at. That is the important thing. So actually, I'm French. I grew up in France, in the West, but I arrived in Berlin almost 10 years ago, and I stayed. I studied at the University of Potsdam, my master's, and then I did my PhD at the University of Potsdam, but always living in Berlin. And I live in Berlin with what is called the African Quarter. I would rather call it the Colonial Quarter, where you have like street names of former German colonies such as Cameroon, Togo, etc.
And was it your, as a child, if somebody asked you what you want to become when you're adult, was it like I want to be a scientist, or was it something different? Do you want to be?
That scientist was never an option. When you had like maybe policemen or businessmen, etc. No, scientist was never an option. Like maybe. But my mother's a high school teacher, so high school teacher would be. Oh no, she's a primary school teacher. Sorry, but teacher would be an option, and sometimes I felt drawn to it. But no, I actually came with the flow. I studied journalism in my first studies. Then I studied English and American studies, literature and culture, linguistics, and now I'm rather in. So cultural anthropology, museum studies, and memory studies. Yeah.
And so you came to Berlin to study, or to Potsdam, but you lived in Berlin. Why didn't you move to Potsdam? Was there a reason?
Yes, there are many reasons, I think. First of all, when I arrived in Berlin. So my first lab was in Berlin, and I was studying at the Free University in Berlin just for 1 year, and then I started in Potsdam. So and Berlin and Potsdam are not that far away. At that time, also the rent in Berlin was cheaper than in Potsdam. Right now, we have like big debates on rent, by the way, in Berlin.
Yes.
But I never felt. I mean, there are some areas of Potsdam which I think I could live. Where I think I could live, but I always felt drawn to Berlin, and Berlin is my home now, I must say.
Yeah. There's some cities in the world where you lived a time and then you've been drawn to. So that's true. Okay. So I think we're gonna dive deeper into the topic, but first let's have an improv scene, because we have improv player from also a nice city in the world, I would say. And let's see if they can maybe, come up, show yourself, that's people. Yeah, wonderful. I would like to have us want to see a scene, maybe where somebody want to go or don't want to go from a city in a world which is beautiful, and maybe because the microclimate is different, and maybe there's a bridge and water and fog or stuff like that. So just for, maybe you can imagine kind of the city in this way.
Wait, it's leaving this city or leaving to be in this city? I didn't understand.
I think it's, I let it over to you. So that you can find a reason how to leave or to stay there. I think you find a way for a scene. And before you start, for one thing, thank you for all the comments in the YouTube chat, and for you out there on YouTube, hello. For the next scene, I would like to have can you give me a profession for somebody who's, just a profession as something I can maybe later on give to bats to deal with. So just for the next scene. Now, I just want to have this little city scene. So let's have fun with Bats Improv from San Francisco.
Hey, you guys, thanks for coming over. It's so great to see you. Charlie, they're here. Come on down.
All right, I'll be down in a minute.
Okay. Oh my gosh, come on in. Make yourself comfortable.
Hey, thanks for having us over.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Hey, so Charlie and I have some really big news.
Mm-hmm. I'm coming. Hang on.
Thanks, babe. Can I tell him?
Yeah, you start. You go ahead and start.
All right. Hey, you guys. We're selling the place and we're moving.
You're moving, Linda?
Yeah. As you know, I mean, Charlie's been here nearly his entire life, and I've been here for more than 20 years. We're leaving San Francisco. We are moving out of the city. We're part of the exodus. We're going north.
You mean north like Marin?
No, we're actually not another county in California, not even another state in the United States.
We're going to Canada. We're going to
Whistler, BC. You know, you remember we had that timeshare there? Oh, Mark, you joined us that time. Remember that ski trip? Those hot tubs? We're moving to Whistler, the Sunshine Coast.
It's not the city.
No, it's not
Hi,
the city.
Yeah, we're moving to Whistler.
Yeah,
if you wanted a cooler climate, you could have just gone to the Sunset. God. Mark, can you deal with this? I need a moment.
Oh, honey, I'll be back in a minute.
Thanks, babe.
I'm sorry, Linda, but we're just having a hard time believing this.
I know.
This is shocking.
I know. I mean, Charlie was Mr. San Francisco 10 years running.
Listen. Try to get yourself together. Linda doesn't know about you and me. She's never known.
The sourdough bread.
Yeah.
The activism. Being able to tell people when they say, "Where do you live?" saying San Francisco, California. And when they say where, you say in the heart of the city.
Look, buddy, I was never going to leave her for you anyway. I was never going to happen, okay?
Charlie, do they even have open relationships in Canada? I don't think so.
I don't want an open relationship anymore. I just want to be with Linda for the rest of my life.
Oh, God.
And really, the great thing about it is that Canada is such a melting pot. I mean, right? The history of racism here has made it nearly impossible to really change the society.
Ooh, and they
How's he
have no
doing?
racism in Canada.
Well, it's a different story there. I mean, it's a different story. They didn't kill all their native people, for example.
It's a great place, you know. It's and so much nature, and we just,
Linda.
Gosh, Linda and I, come over here, honey. Linda and I are just, well, we're ready just to be the two of us up there in the nature.
Linda, you're my confidant.
Yeah, well, we have phones. We can text. We can get online.
There's something going on between you two that I don't know about.
Yes.
Tell him.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Charlie.
Jesus, where did she? I cannot believe this. Charlie, what are you holding up there? Yeah, the end of your relationship with my wife.
We can leave.
That's correct. The end of that.
That's the end. The end.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. You can come back and bow, and let's have a kind of a applause moment for you. Wonderful improvisers, great. Thank you for this scene. It was so I think we all felt the same, like leaving Berlin, leaving another big cities, and but many people understand, some not. I think we're all in the same position. Thanks. Let's dive into the topic more and see what's coming up. Jan, so now you see other cities, people don't want to leave too, so it's right, you've been still in Berlin. You mentioned it, and I think we have to talk before I get into, or we both in hot water about why are you as a white male why can you talk about post-colonialism, and how is it possible that we both are talking about this tonight, or shouldn't other people do that? Can we discuss this first, I think?
Okay. Well, what's important in that field, if you want to be active or if you want to help or participate, is to be aware of what you call your positionality. So your positionality is where you place yourself in the debate, or where you see your role, that you should be aware, especially of where you can intervene and where you cannot, and where you should leave space for someone else. And I mean, you talked about mistakes. You don't want to make mistakes, but actually I think that we learn by making mistakes, and I've done mistakes myself, and I'm still doing them, and I'm still learning, and to be more inclusive in my language, but also in my practice, to try bring some voices to the fore, which are usually not heard. So I have the privilege to be heard by a lot of people in Germany because of my status, because of my PhD, because of my being white. I mean, I can talk to white racist people, whereas Black people or Afro-Germans, for example, would have a hard time doing that. And so where I see myself as using that privilege so that other voices can get to the front. And if you go to our website, for example, Potsdam, you'll see that we have interviews of activists and activists from Tanzania, a researcher from Kenya, a Black German writer, etc. And so we try in our practice not only to speak about the history of Potsdam and the history of German colonialism, but also to bring those perspectives to the debate. because for a long time they have not been considered in the public sphere.
Yes, I think that's true from the feeling like learned in school. It's like, okay, there was no German or there was small German colonies somewhere in the world, but they all been lost. Germany would never be considered as a huge colonizing power. That's wrong, but in a feeling like we don't have this focus on a German school on that. So it's interesting to hear about that. But on the other hand, do I understand you right that you try to be an advocate for these people, like to give them
No, I mean, they can talk for themselves.
Yeah.
But what I can do, and what I haven't done actually here, because I'm the one here representing Postcolonial Potsdam, but it's also because you invited us, you invited the group, and I was the only one who had the time and to be here tonight. No, what I see is that we are all entangled, we are all connected to colonial history. I am myself connected to colonial history because I'm French, first. Secondly, because I live in Berlin in the so-called colonial quarter. And third, maybe because I have friends who have experiences of racism, etc. So these are just the three ways of me being connected to colonial history. And I think that everyone should look into their own environments and the history of their families or of the streets that they live in, for example, to see whether they have these connections to colonial history and how they can engage or learn about this aspect of the past that in Germany has been, I wouldn't say forgotten, because it has not been forgotten. I mean, Tanzanian people have not forgotten about German colonialism, but has been overlooked in the German public sphere, or maybe willfully. So there's this concept of colonial amnesia, the fact that the German or the mainstream white German society, because Afro-Germans or African people living in Germany have not forgotten this, but I would say the mainstream white German society for a long time has forgotten its colonial history, or as you said, has belittled it.
Yeah. So, and now we are in a show where we do improv scenes, and I know the improv player now gonna think about, oh, what we're gonna do. We don't want to replay this all and so on, but actually it's about talking about the topic, and let's learn something about it. And what I try to always remember is it's not about guilt, because I never was in Africa or I never been actually part of it. But I'm responsible. I take not responsible, but I take kind of a Verantwortung,
responsibility.
Responsibility to remember and to deal with that as a German in German history. So I didn't do it. I'm not guilty for that, but I'm responsible in a historical way. And I think if we can do this difference between guilt and responsibility, I think we can also open up a discourse about that, what we need actually. So let's have a discussion and let's see what I'm gonna learn tonight. I'm really looking into it because what kind of how long we go back in history for that. So
is that your question?
Yeah, that's my question. Okay. What time period we're talking about?
Well, you go back to 1680 when the so-called great elector, so große Kurfürst, that's his name, Frederick William, actually wanted to imitate the Dutch because he was very fervent admirer of the Dutch and wanted to build his own trade company. And so he sent a fleet to the coast of today's Ghana, where he built a fort. I mean, his soldiers built a fort and started trading cotton, gold, parrots. He asked them to bring parrots back and exotic animals, etc., to the court, but also started trading Africans. I mean, just like the Dutch were doing it at the time, just like the Portuguese, the Spanish, etc. So these are the first steps of German colonialism. It's Brandenburg's involvement in the transatlantic trade of enslaved Africans.
And it was like, because the Dutch had this, the king or the created, what was the English word? It's like Kurfürst is
great elector.
Great elector wanted it to be the same. So like was like we have to be as rich and as powerful as the same as the Dutch. So it was like kind of okay, I understand. And from then on, they had like a colony in what's now Ghana, yes, in Africa. And how long did this go? So then they tried to get more, or?
So they built a fort, which actually the name of the fort is also Großfriedrichsburg, so the Great Fort of Friedrich, the Great Fort of Frederick. And so it's all about symbols, about power, you know, about imprinting, like putting your name everywhere on the map, you know. That is part of colonial strategy. So it started in 1680. In 1682, they founded this Brandenburg Africa Company and started trading. Then further, they leased an island in the Caribbean so that they could sell those enslaved Africans in the Caribbean. And this is a triangular trade, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. That's what I learned in history class in school, but it's mainly the English and the British and the Dutch and the French did that. So that the Germans or the Russians did it, I was not aware of, actually.
Yeah, it is estimated as between 1682 and 1713 when the Brandenburg Africa Company actually sold its colony to the Dutch again, but it remained kind of a colony until 1770. But like these are details that you don't need to know about. It is estimated that the Brandenburg Africa Company traded up to 20,000, around 20,000 Africans as enslaved to the Caribbean. And many of them actually did not survive the voyage. So these are only the people that survived the voyage. Many of them died on the ships. Yeah. And
so, but that was just common ground for European kings and rulers, like to have this kind of, wasn't there any kind of resistance in Europe by people who said they're human beings, you can't do that? Or was it just like, yes, they're...
The abolitionist movement started rather at the end of the 18th century. So the abolitionist movement is also criticized for being very white. Like it's only white men actually saying we need to save the Africans. But what we know is that already on the coast of on the Gold Coast, I mean, there were Africans who also resisted to colonial presence, to European presence. And I mean, the problem is that the records, especially for that time, like the records, I mean, the written word is only from the perspective of Europeans. Africans, some African civilization already had writing, but we don't have the records for this, and we cannot decipher them. So the perspective on the slave trade is mostly from the perspective of Europeans until the mid 17th century, when you start having enslaved Africans who were freed or who learned how to write.
Okay. Yeah. So there was another kind of writing down the history by people actually being sold or freed as slaves.
Only later. And actually, for that matter, there is one Black German. So there is one African who was who was actually shipped to Europe, to the Netherlands, and then sold to Halle, where he actually learned how to write and studied and wrote a PhD. And his name is Anton Wilhelm Amo, and we have his name, and we have also his writings. And he wrote about his experience of racism in German counties, and he became a professor. So we have one history that is where we have a name and the history of that person and the words of that person, but this is only one among thousands.
He was a professor at the University of Halle, actually.
Yes, Wittenberg.
Yeah, Halle Wittenberg, yes. And he was in the same time where Kant was in Königsberg, I think. I remember right, but yeah. So,
might be. He left Germany in 1805, 1806 to go back to Ghana because of his experience of discrimination here.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the first step into the dates and what time we're talking about. There was more to say about these times, but let's have an improv scene in between. So let's bring back the improv player on stage. It's a stage, kind of stage. Yes, we talked a little about representation and also about colonial amnesia. My words. I would love to have a scene where somebody is also forgetting important parts of their profession, and we had some professions in the chat. I want to like to go with a gardener, a person caring about a garden, and just forget what he not needs to, what's not good for himself. Yes.
I'm not. What Thomas? What is that again? A gardener?
I tried again. Sorry for my. There's a scene with a gardener, and this gardener has also a kind of amnesia where he or she forgets always what's not pleased to himself. Yes. You make it. I know it.
What ho, my lord?
I hath worked upon the fruit trees what magic I can with my clippers.
Yea, verily, the apples grow most great and strong.
Yea, they do. And upon the roots I shall, upon the roots I shall place something upon the roots. And when finding the roots, I shall upon them place the thing that I shall place upon them that I have placed upon them before.
I beg of thee, Broderick, speak thy mind. I know not what thou dost say.
Ah, yes, I shall be clearer then. For you are the lady of this manor, and it is for thy grace that gold and silver is placed upon in my pocket.
Yea, that is so. Thou dost grow the quince, and apples great and strong, and there, in the greenhouse, the oranges from far away and distant lands.
Ah, yes, Lady Beaumont, I have done that as well, and I have a good memory of all things that I have done.
And yet, it was but one season ago the quince were withered and dead. Dost thou not recall? What was it thou didst put upon the roots? I beg thee, didst thou destroy thine own orchard, mine own orchard?
I has put upon the roots what nurtures all, which be salt.
Nay, I am no gardener, and yet I do know salt, that precious pearl that comes from the ocean, salt. If thou dost put it upon the plants will wither and die. Nay, thou must place, how must I say it, the waste the horses leave behind. Dost thou not recall?
Yea.
From behind the horses behind?
Yea, from the end opposite the mouth.
Yea.
This would be what one should place upon the roots.
Good lady, I beckon thee here in the tree above thee.
Oh!
Good day, mother. It is the talking squirrel.
Aye, and I can no longer bear this discourse, for the poor gardener yon seems that he hath forgot himself. Nay,
'Tis so. What sayest thou? What may I do?
in the world of squirrels, we do swear that when one has lost their memory, 'tis but a good rap upon the noggin that shall restore it.
Ah, as he is a servant, then I may strike him.
Indeed.
Or
May I strike,
perhaps,
mother? May I strike him? May I strike him?
oh, my darling child, my dear sweet William, come to thy mother's breast that I may embrace thee. Sweet son, wouldst thou strike Broderick the gardener?
May I?
I beg thee, do take up that board there upon the ground, and squirrel, toss down a nut or two upon his head.
I shall do as thou dost command.
We will help thee remember thy mind.
Broderick, do thee bend a little so that I may reach thy head with this stick. Oh, I have so wanted to strike thee many times, and yet my mother hath told me I may not, and yet now it is for a good reason. Oh.
I prithee, good sir, try it from different angles, across the crown, across the side, and strongly from the back.
Tis enough. Allow me to interrogate. I'll question here our Broderick. Broderick, what dost thou put upon the roots of the tree?
One doth put upon one doth put shit upon the
No, shit is right. You may stop striking, son.
Nay.
Shit is right.
Huzzah! Thy striking hath cured him.
The more I
I have
strike him,
remembered the shit.
but the more I strike him, the more he shall be cured, good mother. So I must stay in the garden with this stick to strike him.
Ah, my darling son, thou art indeed the master of the realm. When thy father doth return, we shall tell him that thou hast taken on his role.
Yeah. I am ready.
I shall go gather more acorns for hurling.
And Broderick,
Yes.
stay close to my son, that whence thou dost forget thyself, thou mayest ask him what thou shalt remember. The youth of the world shall teach us where we must go next, for the ways of our parents did not make us as wealthy as the ways of today. You may go about your work.
I thank thee, Lady Beaumont. I thank thee.
You and I shall be friends.
Of a sort.
Hervorragend. Hilarious. Yeah, come back, please. The improvisers, have a bow. Thanks. And yes, it was very fitting to the topic, like solving problems with violence is really like, it's like the Russians did. So yeah, that's true. Thank you for this Shakespeare-esque scene. And for you out there on YouTube's with the chat master Zara, for the next scene, maybe you can put something in the chat what you want you going to as a thief, if you are a thief and you want to have it, like what kind of thing you would break into a house or something, you know what I mean?
What do you want to steal?
Yes, there's translation of my English into plain English. Thank you. Yes, Jan, how was it for you, like beating someone as long as they remember what's
no, not the right technique, but it's been used before, and I'm neither a partisan of the carrot nor of the stick. Rather, I think that dialogue and self-reflection and respect are make for I don't know, a good future together.
Okay, let's go on a little bit of history of Russian colonialism or German colonialism. How it goes on. So we have this first colony on the coast of Africa in Ghana, and then how did this develop?
Well, it's let me tell you first that it's hard to divide it in real eras and epochs, yes, because colonialism is something that is still ongoing. I mean, it's everyone agrees that it started in 1492 when Christopher Columbus left Spain and Portugal, but it still exists today. There are still colonies like France, the overseas territories can still be considered as colonies. There is still colonialism in our minds. And when it comes to Germany, you have a long period where there is, like in rather history, there is no German colonialism or no Prussian colonialism until 1884. But, and this is when we come to Potsdam, there is still colonial imagery, there is still colonial thinking, there was still racism, because there were Africans who were shipped from the coast of Ghana, like Untitled, for example, who were in Germany and who were working as gardeners, sometimes as pipists, so as soldiers or as musicians. And those people actually experienced colonial thinking through their lives, and their lives are a token of colonialism, even though from 1717 until 1884, nor Germany, nor Prussia, nor Bavaria had colonial territories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and this whole period is quite visible in the park where I'm in the Parc Sans Souci in Potsdam, where Frederick the Great, so Frederick II, built that park in the mid 18th century, and actually built that park also with colonial mindsets, you know. And there are like some statues, for example, statues of Black Africans in the park, which actually suggest rather some kind of exoticism or some kind of also of hierarchy between Blacks and whites. But now coming back to your question, if we want to really have like periods of German colonialism, then let's go directly to 1884 and to the so-called Berlin Conference, where European powers and the US actually were there, but just as observers, where European powers were invited to Berlin to divide Africa like a cake. It's also called the Congo Conference because the main point was about King Leopold of Belgium, having this territory of today's Congo for himself. But I mean, all European territories actually benefited from this conference. And it was Bismarck who invited so delegates from France, from Italy, from the UK, etc., in the Wilhelmstrasse in Berlin. And it took place between November 1884 and February 1885. And after that, we can say that German colonialism was set in stone. And Germany had several territories. On the African continent, there was Togo, German Togo. It includes also a part of Ghana actually, Cameroon, East Africa. This includes today's Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. Without Zanzibar. Zanzibar was the UK's territory, and Southwest Africa, which is today's Namibia. This is just for Africa. Then you have in China the Jiaosu Bay, so which was called Jiaochu by the Germans, and which was a lease agreement to have a trade port, so to say, or a trading outpost. The Germans were not the only ones. We know about Hong Kong, for example, but the French also had trading posts on the Chinese coast. And Germany had also territories in today's Papua New Guinea, what is called the Bismarck Archipel, actually. Yes.
But so they're meeting in Berlin, actually inviting a lot of people from the states around, and then they just decided who gets what part of Africa or Asia for their...
No, it was just about Africa. The Berlin Conference was just about the African continent. For the Asian territories, it took place a bit differently. It was rather through expeditions, sorry, and actually everything is about expeditions. Everything is about Germans going overseas and landing, like Karl Peters, for example, on the shores of East Africa, going through the land. So that's why in Kiswahili, they call white people Wazungu, the travelers, because there were so many white people just going through the lands, just traveling. But they weren't traveling. They were actually traveling with the military, with military support. And they wanted to get so-called treaties of protection, so to get protectorates. But if you read rather African sources to it and African historians, they would call them treaties of submission, because basically what these treaties were about was about those African communities, African chiefs and leaders everywhere to plead allegiance to the German Kaiser. And so as soon as you have this treaty of protection or submission, depends how you call it. In German it's Schutzverträge, but I prefer calling it Unterwerfungsvertrag. Then when you have this agreement, which African leaders could not read, could not understand, everything is written in German. I have just one example in one document like this behind me. And then Karl Peters came to Berlin and showed it to the Kaiser, and the Kaiser could have like some weight on during the Africa conference to say, hey, we already have some pieces of paper here, so that means we get this territory.
Okay, but nobody could ever control that this is a real kind of a document or a contract. So like that's crazy, or in a way to go somewhere and say, here, I have a piece of paper, sign it, and I go back. And so how you said they've been like named the travelers because they traveled through the land. So, but did they bring something, or is it just how can I imagine how they behave there? So they came there with the military, and then they talk to the leaders there, to the kings or whatever, and then they go back, or they stay there. How they behave, or just it's like, it sounds so absurd to go somewhere, and because they're living people, it's not like empty space.
Like Trevor Noah, I don't know if you know Trevor Noah, this comedian, South African comedian. Like he says, colonialism is the most arrogant form of patriotism. So you think that your country is the best and you go somewhere to export it, so to say. And so by exporting also your culture, and these treaties are part of the German culture, so to say. It's like in Southwest Africa, there was a treaty that was actually a swindle. So Adolf Lüderitz, the so-called founder of German Southwest Africa, arrives on the shores of today's Namibia, met with a Nama leader, and said, okay, I want a piece of your land. And the Nama leader actually agreed, but the Namas were actually a nomadic folks, community. But the Nama leader actually agreed and could understand this because they were conversing in Afrikaans, so kind of like the Dutch variety. But the problem is that on the this piece of on the contract, yes, Lüderitz said, so I would get this territory, let's say 1,000 square miles, but the German miles were actually 7 times bigger than the English miles, and Lüderitz knew that, but the Nama leader didn't know that. So you kind of like your culture of like having contracts and having like land ownership, which is something that in some other places of the world didn't exist at the time. It was something, it's not an epistemology, it's not the knowledge that people knew about, that you could have some land. Actually, sometimes you could share the land only and not really have it. You don't possess nature, you know?
Yes.
So you're exporting your German form of thinking about nature, the fact that you have a piece of land because you have this piece of paper, and you arrive somewhere where you don't know the people, but you use this kind of culture and the gun, we must say, because
force,
yes, to acquire these pieces of land. Yeah.
And when did this stop? Is there an end when these colonies been freed, or is it still like there ain't no German colonies or overbroad areas like France had this kind in South America, but we don't have in Germany actually? Or is there a stop on that history in a way?
Well, the official end of German colonialism or imperialism, if you want to be precise, because colonialism is bigger, that the German imperial era or imperial colonial era is estimated at the end of the First World War, but it's rather like 7 days after the end of the First World War. It's not the 11th, it's the 18th of November, 1919, because the First World War was still fought in Tanzania when Germany and France actually agreed on a peace. But in Tanzania, the German general Leto Falbeck was still fighting. He didn't know that actually there was the war was over. But this is the official date. But I would say, looking at the situation in Namibia today, German colonialism is not. Has not ended. Like most whites, and not only Germans, but Afrikaans whites or former South Africans, white South Africans, own 80% of the land in Namibia, which means that Black people, indigenous people, don't own that much. And only, I would say, a Black elite has some wealth since the independence of Namibia in 1990. But colonialism is still there, and Namibia is one of the most unequal countries in the world with South Africa. And this is because it was a settler colony. So Germans came and settled and used the land and are still using the land for themselves and getting rich on the backs of Black Africans.
Okay, yes, so we have a little kind of time period now set up. So let's have an improv scene, and then let's talk about, some more examples of colonialism and how it's now in Potsdam. So, but let's have an improv scene first. I ask for things you could steal what it's worth to break it into an apartment. And I think an antique sword I like as a thing. And what we talked a lot about this kind of arrogance against people. Maybe I can inspire you with arrogance for your next scene. With my arrogance, not, but with arrogance as an inspiration, you know. Okay, let's see.
I've called you all into the drawing room because one of you has let a thief into this house. And I know exactly where that thief is and which one of you has done the deed. Well, what do you have to say for yourselves?
I just want to know who it is. I'm desperately, frightened, knowing that there is a thief among us.
I'm completely insulted. I was resting and my maid had to awaken me to bring me here for this.
Well,
I only hope that whoever you find is brought to justice and punished for their horrible crime.
Yes.
Well, of course. You see, I have actually booby-trapped the target of their thievery. Unbeknownst to them, they are approaching right now the sword of Belarus, the famed jeweled saber that you are arrogant enough to keep displayed in your upstairs hallway. Even now, I can almost see them in my mind's eye sneaking up upon the sword. But I have booby-trapped it.
Sword of Belarus, that beautiful, beautiful sword, the sword that our great, great, great grandfather took from Belarus because he was so good at taking things.
Yes. And you see, the minute someone touches that sword, a grand alarm will go off.
And then what?
Then, as they attempt to flee, they will be caught in a very large spider web.
Well, we heard the alarm. Should we go there then?
No need, for they are caught in a spider web. But eventually they will be able to break free of the spider web. This is merely a delaying tactic that I might look into your eyes and see which one of you was arrogant enough to set up a thief to steal that sword.
But you were the one that set it up. You just said you set it up. Did you put the alarm there?
No, I set up the trap.
Yeah.
Who set up the thief to steal it is the question.
Well,
that's the question I'm putting to you. See,
you're saying, Inspector, that this is an inside job.
Yes.
All right. I did it. Yes, me, Chadwick. Yes.
I forgot to tell you, the final part of my trap was I have rebuilt all of the hallways so it leads directly here.
Oh, well then the burglar will be arriving soon when he
Yes, they're right there.
Yes, the burglar is right here. The person I hired to do it is right here. Would you like
Harold,
to meet?
how could you?
How well? Because it was time that someone took what they wanted from this place.
But it is ours. We took it. We took it centuries ago.
Oh, no,
You
no,
can't
no.
have it now.
Freedom of Belarus.
I'm afraid I have a document right here
Yes.
that has been made by myself and the burglars.
Wait,
Yes, it divides the estate into, here, take a look.
Let me see.
but
It
it is our
divides-
estate.
Yes, it divides it into 6 pieces. Yes, and the sword is only the first of the things that we are authorized to steal.
But
Yeah.
Harold, you're merely a third cousin twice removed.
Yes, but I'm afraid that document is legally binding. He wrote it in the proper language, signed it, and notarized it himself. There's nothing more I can do as an inspector.
Yeah, after all, I am a barrister and a lord and a property owner, and so it is perfectly
My
within my
ancestors who took that painting, and it was my ancestors who took this beautiful mirror, and where you can see all of the hallways and all of the beautiful gold filigree. It is our ancestors that first absconded with the beautiful tapestries. It is our ancestors who century ago amassed this wealth. How dare you?
Excuse me. Do you have any documentation to prove that?
We have.
Anything written in the last, say, 300 years or so?
Friedrich, do we have
Notarized,
anything?
double-spaced, and written in the proper language.
What do we? We have the locks on our doors. We have high walls. We have a family name.
Sorry, that doesn't count in the court of law. Well, it looks like we're going to be repossessing quite a bit. The sword is yours, sir. Good show.
Yes, the next things to go will be the tapestries behind you, and then various other areas as we have divided them.
As long as you have the proper documentation, good sport to you, sir. Well, I must be returning back to the inspector station. I wish you all a good day. Don't touch anything for which you don't have proper documentation. Good night.
Thank
Do
you, sir.
something.
Thank you for being understanding. Well, Roger, you did an excellent job with that thievery. You really did.
Oh,
Oh, do you think so, sir? Thank you. I did my best.
I need to take a nap.
That's quite a document you drew up, sir. Well, yes, I am a barrister after all. What good is it to be a barrister unless you can draw up a good document? Let's have tea, shall we?
Ugh. I knew we should have gotten educations.
Yeah.
Didn't I say?
Yes, but, well, we were otherwise occupied.
No, yes.
Yes. If you have the right document, you are allowed to rule the world. So it is. Thank you, Bad Improv from San Francisco.
Thomas, we're going
Yes.
to be doing the rest of the show ourselves. We have the
You have a binding document. Yes.
we have the document. Yes, for your show now.
But actually, I have some documents which binds you to. They are 300 years old. Thanks a lot. Yeah, and for you all down there on YouTube land, I want to have a good German word, but you also can use in the English language, and it's understandable in both languages for that's to deal with in the next scene. But before, let's talk again to Jan, our expert, and he's in the garden again. You're in the park again.
Yeah, sans souci.
Sans souci. Yeah, it's a wonderful place in Potsdam. Actually, today there's a huge garden with 2 castles, actually, or 3. I don't know.
3.
3, yeah, and some houses and so on. What's problematic with sans souci?
Okay, that's pretty straightforward.
Is there something problematic?
Well, the fact that you cannot have a picnic on the lawn, but no.
It's a Russian park, you know. You're
Yeah.
not allowed to sit on the green. You have to walk through the ways, and the green is sacred green.
And that shows something, but Sanssouci is not problematic in itself. I think Sanssouci is beautiful, and I think it's also good for tourists, and it's a very attractive setup for if you want to visit Potsdam, you should obviously go to Sanssouci. I think what is problematic in Sanssouci or in some of the castles is that there is little to no information on the darker side of modernity. Like some thinker has called it the darker side of modernity, colonialism. So you learn about Frederick the Great, you learn about the new palace, the last Prussian Baroque palace, you learn about the Palace Sanssouci and how Voltaire was there. You learn about very nice things and very interesting things, but you don't learn about, say, that the peak of the Kilimanjaro is in the new palace. You don't learn about the fact that there was, for example, another Sanssouci palace in Haiti. You don't, and soon you will have some information about the 4 statues of Black Africans that are looking up to those Roman emperors. So it's called the first rotary, so the Estes Rondel, which had another name before, which included a racist word, but we have pushed for the renaming of that rotary. And the foundation that actually manages Sanssouci and the castles, so the Foundation Prussian Palaces and Castles, has renamed that square finally in September.
This year in September?
No, last year, 2020.
Okay,
Yeah.
2020, so 200 years later or something? Yeah.
Well, the history of this rotary includes several names, but those names, some of those names always include the so-called M word in German. So not the N word, but the M word, which has been used time and again in German literature, in songs, etc., to perpetuate some kind of like racist ideology that white people were better than Black people. In English, you would translate it into blackamoor, for example, for our guests from San Francisco, so that they have a bit of
understanding
reference.
So there's a park, there's a way, there's a rondel, so like a place where it's round, and there's like these figures or busts of African people actually. And what's the problem that they are there? So they named them, but what's actually the point on that?
Well, I would invite you to listen to the perspectives of friends of ours who actually are either Afro-German or one Kenyan guy. Listen to their perspectives and what they say about this representation of Black people and how they feel that this representation does not do justice to them, or that Angelo Camufingo, who's a member of Black Lives Matter Berlin and who was a student at the University of Potsdam and who was active at the University of Potsdam with a group of an Afro-diasporic group, says, and when we interviewed him about that rotary, that he always felt, he grew up in Potsdam, and when he was a kid, they would always go to the Parc Sanssouci for excursion at school, and he always felt addressed in some kind of weird way by those statues. He knew that, like, I quote him, and he says, like, I knew it wasn't about the beauty of Black people, unquote. Those 4 statues are actually looking up at Marcus Aurelius, so a German emperor and philosopher, and Titus Vespasianus, another German emperor. And so this kind of display is actually not what a Black person would do or a Black artist would do there,
So they've been portrayed in a position from in a sub. How to say it in English?
Inferiority.
Yes. And so they're looking up, and it's really like I was there also, and it's really like a crazy thing to experience, because all the other bus of people there are looking directly at you. They're like the philosophers and kings, and so on. These four are looking like, yes, they're completely different, like they've been displayed there. So that's yeah, it's crazy. And there's no, you say there's nearly nothing you learn about, so there's not a kind of a written words or something like
it will change.
Sign.
It will change. The foundation is currently drafting a text to be put there on the process of renaming, why the older world word is not suited to today, to current standards, and they will put some information about I hope about Brandenburg's involvement in the transatlantic trade. Yeah, so it's changing. It's also part of like all the movements that took place recently. They talk about like a thief stealing things, like the debate on restitution, for example, is a hot topic right now. Black Lives Matter and the murder of George Floyd, all those have contributed that these institutions actually look into their history and start changing those practices.
And you said the tip of the Kilimanjaro is actually also in Potsdam, so that's new for me. I thought Kilimanjaro is a mountain in Africa. Am I wrong there, or what's about that?
You're not, but it's a good story. So in the new palace in Potsdam, so this Baroque palace, there's a grotto hole. It's called the grotto hole because it has like stones and mussels and shells everywhere. It's very shiny, and in there on the wall there is one kind of installation where you have a miniature mountain with a rock on top of it, and it's written under there, peak of the Kilimanjaro 1890. And this is actually because the Kilimanjaro is in Tanzania, but in 1889, a German geographer called Hans Meyer went to Tanzania, which was part of German East Africa, and wanted to be the first European, he says the first man, but we should say the first European to climb up Kilimanjaro. And he tried it in 1887, he didn't manage, then he went back, and in 1889 he did manage, but he was not alone. Obviously there were many Africans carrying the stuff for them.
It's strange, we always hear just one name doing all this stuff, so yeah.
Two names. He had an Austrian mountain climber partner with him. And so when they arrived on the top of the Kilimanjaro, he took a piece of rock and brought him back with him to Potsdam, where he cut it in half. Actually, he kept one piece for him as a paperweight, and the other piece he offered it to the German Kaiser Wilhelm II, and he said, "This is the peak of Kaiser Wilhelm Peak." So he renamed the Kilimanjaro and said, now it's called Kaiser Wilhelm Peak. It's not called Kibo. So the peak of the Kilimanjaro is called Kibo. It's not called Kibo again. It's called Kaiser Wilhelm Peak. And so the Kaiser was like, oh yeah, thank you. and this is a symbolic gesture, obviously, and the rock. So the Kaiser put the rock in his favorite ball hall with this caption and like peak of the Kilimanjaro 1890. Yeah, but it's not finished. It's not finished. The original rock was lost or destroyed, apparently in the 1950s, 1960s. In the 1980s, the foundation actually did some research on the rock. They wanted to see like which kind of rock it was. Was it volcano rock, etc.? And they found out that it was a biotite from Brandenburg, so a Schiefer from Brandenburg. And they were like, okay,
from around the corner, just a rock from around the corner. Okay.
So actually, it meant that the original rock had been either lost during renovation or destroyed, and so someone had replaced it without saying anything. But the problem is you can't have the peak of the Kilimanjaro if it's not an authentic rock, you know? And so what the foundation did is they asked the Institute of Geology in Berlin. No, it was in Potsdam at the time because Germany was divided. They asked the Institute of Geology to give them a rock from Hans Meyer's collection.
Okay.
But it was a collection from 1887 when Hans Meyer did not manage to climb up. So the rock that they have now is a rock that is not from the peak, but it's still written Peak of Kilimanjaro.
Okay, that's really a strange story, but it's symbolized how much, yes, about symbolism, all this colonialism, and how it's displayed here in Germany. That's a strange story, because on the one hand I would say or advocate for German scientists to travel around the world and collect stuff and have yes, learning more about the world, like Humboldt, for example. But on the other hand, if it's this way, it seems like strange to rename a mountaintop for the Kaiser. So it's a crazy story. So let's have an improv scene, and then we finally go into the end of the show. So you have to answer questions at the end to do the exam of the Impropedia together with the improvisers. But let's bring them up and have a last and final big scene. Yeah, I ask for German words they're also able to use in the English language. What we have here: beer garden and sauerkraut, Wunderkind, what's it? Kindergarten, and yes, Angst and Weltschmerz. Actually, that's, I think, Weltschmerz. You know Weltschmerz?
No.
Weltschmerz. It's like feeling the pain of the world or for the world. So it's a really German. It's a real German.
Yes.
It suits. So maybe you can use for your next scene a lot of these words I would like to have. And yes, it's about renaming things. I would prefer to have a scene of where things be renamed. Okay, let's see. That's improv.
Okay.
Hey everybody. Here's the raise a beer.
All right.
Here's the four of us, huh? We survived. We survived the past year. Huh? Here's us. Yeah. Yeah. What a year.
Yeah. Both my kids are in kindergarten now.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, the twins. Yeah, they're 5.
Yeah.
Online, of course.
Hey, you have a surgery this afternoon, Melissa?
Yeah. I just dropped by the beer garden in order to have just a couple minutes with you guys, because we've been vaccinated and we're 6 feet apart from each other. And
by the way, I'm calling it the drinking place instead of the beer garden.
Oh, the drinking place.
I think that makes much more sense, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it surgery anymore. I'm calling it. I'm calling it save the day. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Save the day for somebody.
You got save the day later after you leave the drinking place.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna save the day. Hey, you seem a little down there, Mark. What's up?
Oh, you know, just a little bit of Weltschmerz, you know.
Oh yeah, like world
Yeah.
fatigue, world fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going around a lot, Mark.
Yeah. You know, I just think back, 10 years ago, I was in my 20s and everybody was saying, oh, Mark, he's the wonderkind.
Yeah, it's true. You were.
Yeah.
You were. And not anymore.
Yeah, now you're like the over the hill kind.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the sauerkraut I ordered.
Great.
Oh, great. Yeah, put it right in the middle of the table. There you go, you guys. Help yourself.
Can I say something about the sauerkraut thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
It always sounds slightly racist to me. Could we just call it German pickled
Thank
cabbage?
you. Oh my
German-
God, I've been thinking that for years.
German
Just
pickled
let's
cabbage?
just call it pickled cabbage.
Pickled
German-
cabbage.
Pickled
Yeah.
cabbage. Not
Yeah.
even German. Yeah.
Yeah, pickled cabbage. There you go. Do we need to change the name for beer?
Yeast drink.
Yeast drink.
Yeast
Yeah.
drink?
Oh, hey, I do have a piece of good news.
Yeah.
This is the craziest thing. I have a moon rock. It's a rock from the moon.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Look at
How do
it.
you know?
A guy sold it to me, and
Uh-huh.
he said that he was an astronaut and he got it on the moon. And
Can I see it?
sure, yeah, it's right there. I put it on the table
Oh,
next to
okay,
the
good.
yeah.
Mark, how much would you pay for that?
It's a moon rock, so it's like I've always wanted to have a moon rock.
Mark,
Back in the days when I was a wunderkind, I wanted to have a moon rock.
Mark, I hate to say that, but that looks an awful lot like a brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a brick. It was produced over in the East Bay. There used to be a big brickworks near Point Richmond, and so this is a Point Richmond brickwork. It says so, in fact, on the bottom, Point Richmond Brickworks brick. What did you pay for it?
Can we get some more pickled cabbage and yeast drink for the table? Yeah, thanks.
I paid,
Oh, and more, maybe some of those baked brown twisty things with salt.
Come on, what did you pay for it? Tell me.
not $9,500 for it.
Oh, I'm so glad that wasn't me. I'm experiencing a little Schadenfreude right now.
Mark, that's a brick. That's a brick. A real moon rock would be millions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be so, like a rectangle with crisp edges.
And it probably wouldn't have Richmond Brickworks crossed out with moon chiseled underneath it.
Yeah.
Do you think if I went back to the guy, I could say, hey, could you give me an actual moon rock?
You could try.
Worth a
Could I
shot.
get some pig gut stuffed into pig intestine on a bun?
Yeah, and
Thank
some cow stuffed into. Yeah, thanks.
It's great feasting with you guys before I go to a Save the World.
Yeah. Melissa, you should call it Melissa Saves the World.
Melissa Saves the World.
Yeah.
Oh, it's time. Okay.
All right.
Great to see you guys. Great to see ya. I'm going to go save somebody's day. Melissa
Bye-bye.
saves the world. Bye, guys.
Okay. What about your pork gut stuffed in? Oh, well.
Oh, help yourselves, guys. I just don't have time.
All right.
Yeah. I would, but that makes me have to use the waste elimination flushy place bad. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick with the pickled cabbage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good idea. This thing of like owning the names of things, I think is super important. Right? We're relabeling the world as we want to say it.
I'm thinking of changing my name.
Yeah.
What do you want it to be, Mark?
Rube.
What?
Rube.
Rube?
Rube.
You mean like the carnival slang for somebody who's easily fooled and taken for money?
Yeah.
That's a good name for you.
Yeah, really good.
I'm gonna, I was thinking about that too, Rube. I was thinking of changing my name to Angston.
I'm just looking forward to having a name, I'm tired of just being the person that like sits here that doesn't have a name.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that's true. Huh. I'm sure someone will give you a name one of these days.
Eventually. Yeah.
Oh, here comes our twisty brown stuff. Ah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's Improv of San Francisco, directly brought to you.
We renamed a few things in that scene.
Yes, you hit all what I wanted from you. So all boxes are ticked. Thanks a lot. And before I forget, you're playing actually improv over there in San Francisco. When is your next show?
In about 7.5 hours. It is the show called Jackpot that I will be hosting. I think Dave is in tonight. Rebecca is in tonight. Tim, I don't believe you're in tonight, but I know you love playing from home. Yeah, you can find that on our website, improv.org/shows. It'll also be streaming on YouTube. It'll be streaming on Twitch. It'll be streaming on Facebook. But we'd love to have you in the room. It begins at 10 minutes till 8 because we have the Jackpot supercomputer that actually throws up the suggestions for us. It's a top secret, high tech, we're in Silicon Valley. So we get people in about 10 minutes ahead of an 8 o'clock Pacific time show. So we plug their suggestions into the computer and just let the computer run the rest of the show.
Those of you
Not insomnia.
So you're hosting the show by pressing the computer button.
It's a difficult hosting job, but I'm up for the challenge. Yes. Yeah.
If you're up at 4 or 5 in the morning, come join us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I have a little. No, stay here. You have to answer questions. So just give me a second with Jan, and then we go into the final of the show. Jan, time is running, and it's. Is there something we can do? How could we change the world? What could we do to make the world a better place? Do you have some ideas?
Wow.
Easy questions,
I think humor is a good thing, and as we have seen, and I think proactively informing yourself, like getting curious about history, about different perspectives on history, about listening. Listening is very important. A lot of men don't listen, actually, and me too sometimes, I must say. But listening and hearing and taking in the perspectives of people to whom you don't relate maybe at first sight, but maybe you can learn from those perspectives. My mentor, for example, Boro, who is the founder of Berlin Postcolonial.
If you put your hand to your mouth,
sorry,
we don't understand it so good. So that's just because sorry, because of the listening,
Yeah. Okay. No, I must say that I've learned so much from whom I call my mentor, Mwalimu Nyakasuru Boro, who's a Tanzanian activist who has been fighting for the recognition of German colonialism since the 1980s and who lives in Berlin. Yeah. So, yeah.
So we should read our street signs, how the streets are named, and if we want to get more information about Potsdam, so you said there's a website, and there's something else you could do in Potsdam.
So we have, I can't see this. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a website which is called postcolonialpotsdam.org. And we have on this website also a subdomain, which is an audio guide app. You can use the app going through Potsdam and through the Parc Sanssouci on your phone and listen to some of the text that we have built together from the tours that we give. We give critical tours through the city, but also listen to the perspectives of activists and Black people who have lived or who still live in Potsdam. Yeah.
Cool. So you can give yourself a Corona-conform tour through Potsdam by the audio guide. Wonderful. We're gonna post the link to the website into the YouTube chat, and so I hope many people are now curious about what's going on in Potsdam and also in Berlin. And thanks for your work. Yeah, it's really.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I could talk to you the whole night. So there's a lot of things I was like want to ask, but time is running. And so let's go to the end of the show. And I said before, you and the improvisers had to answer 7 questions to get the degree of the Impropedia. So now you all have to work together. I'm gonna ask you questions and you have to answer them. I give you 3 possible answers. So wait till the end of the question. And if you can manage to answer 7 of these questions, you're gonna have the degree magna cum laude. So otherwise, maybe you just be a participant in the show if you're not can answer so many questions. So let's see. It's a lot about colonialism. Question 1. Are you ready? All? Are you give me some energy? Yes, you're ready. Okay. Question 1. There's a Potsdam in the United States. I think you prepared for the show, Bets, or yeah. Of course, there's. In which state it is located? Is it A, Pennsylvania, B, Connecticut, or C, New York?
Can we chat amongst ourselves, or do we just sit here and somebody guesses?
Did somebody know? That's the, or you point on somebody and say Dave had to guess or something.
Does somebody know?
Does somebody know?
I have a guess, but yeah.
My first, I think Joshua might know, but I was going to say New York.
What is it, Joshua? New York?
New York.
Yay.
And it's right. Yes, it's New York. Yeah. So 1 point. Sarah is counting. Sarah, you counting or? Sarah is counting. 1 point.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, second question. What's another name for the enormous park Sanssouci? So we heard a lot. It is also called A, the Prussian Eden, or is it B, called the Prussian Versailles, or is it C, called the Prussian Central Park?
Well, I'm pretty sure Jan would know the answer, and he's one of us, right?
Yes, he's one of us. Okay. Yes, or you're. He's like, do you know?
Where's ours?
Or we're 4 of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Which one is it?
I'm not 100% sure. I would say I'm over 90% sure the Prussian Versailles, because Potsdam is to Berlin what Versailles is to Paris, so to say.
And what Jan is to the right answer is this answer to Jan. So yes, that's right. It's Versailles. You're right. 2 points. 5 questions to go.
Is it called sans souci, like without worries?
Yes.
It's French. Yeah, it is sans souci. Okay.
So the question is, what is the meaning of sans souci? Was not able to ask because.
No, I just wanted to know.
Yeah, it is. Okay, question 3. When did the English establish their first permanent settlement on the North American East Coast? Was it A, in 1607, 1621, or 1688?
Dave. Oh, Rebecca knows.
Rebecca knows.
1607.
That's right. Rebecca Stockley is right. Yes.
I knew something.
You knew a lot. Okay. 3 questions.
Can I tell you why I knew?
No, tell us.
The reason I knew is because I've been studying a lot about the enslaved Africans that were brought to North America by the English. And the first enslaved Africans landed in what is now New England, sadly, in 1619. So there had to be a settlement there before the second year you named, 1627.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to add to that, Thomas, sans souci means without worries.
That's not right. Okay, we go into the next question. Question number 4. Which Scandinavian country maintained colonies or trading posts in Africa, the Caribbean, India, in Sri Lanka around 1700, so 1700, so 1700. Which country? So was it A, Sweden, a Scandinavian country, B, Denmark, or C, Norwegian?
I have a guess, but
I thought it was going to be the Netherlands. Oh.
it's not
It's
Scandinavian.
Netherlands. It's not Scandinavia. I can answer that.
Yeah.
Maybe we ask the
Or
expert
Dave,
on that.
Dave, do you have?
Well, my initial hit would be Denmark.
Me too.
That was my initial thought too.
Yeah.
I support this answer. Yeah.
And that's right. That's right. Okay, now we have a really complicated question, but we talked about that. Maybe we see in 1914, one of the on the eve of the First World War, there was only a few areas on the globe, apart from the pole regions, that have not been colonized by the Europeans or were once European colonies. Which nation controls the third largest colonial empire in the terms of area at this time? Yeah. So who had the biggest colonial empire? Was it A, Italy, B, Germany, or C, French?
Seems like it'd be France, but
Third,
that'd be
Third.
my guess.
Who was number
Jan?
3?
I bet
No.
Jan knows again.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, Jan knows.
It was France then. Yeah.
Most likely.
Are you sure?
was France? Well, I'm trying to debate between was it France or Germany, which was third. So who was second?
wait.
At that point?
Number 3. Who the third
Oh,
biggest?
third.
Who was the first biggest colonial empire?
Third. Yeah.
The third biggest.
Yeah,
Sure.
the first was England.
Number 3 in the world, not number 1, not number 2. We're talking about number 3.
Okay, I didn't understand. This. Okay.
Germany.
So
Sorry.
after the US and England, probably, right?
I'm gonna guess Germany.
I guess
now.
France still.
Well,
You're
I don't know if
supporting
you. I don't know if you
Rebecca?
count the US.
No, because
Mm.
Yeah,
it has
Germany
never
is
admitted
number
it's
3.
colonial.
Give me an answer. You going with Rebecca Stockley?
Okay,
I said
either.
Germany, guys.
Yeah, I would say Germany as
Yeah.
well.
And that's
Yeah.
right. That's
Right.
right. It's Germany. So we're not happy about that, but that's
No.
right. So we are happy about the right answer. We're not happy about Germany being the third
Wow.
biggest colony
Just to be
empire.
clear, I'm only celebrating correct answers, not
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
All questions answered right. That was question number 5. Now question number 6. We talked about the Berlin African Conference, in which 14 nations had been discussing their respective interests in Africa since November of the previous year, since November till February of 1885. What was not decided? Which point was not decided? So what did it not do? Was it A, that the Congo and the Niger rivers are open to international navigation, or B, King Leopold II of Belgium is granted the Congo Basin virtually as private colony, or C, Africa was or is divided into territories whose borders have been previously been drawn on a map with a ruler. So what did they didn't do? Did they
So
first?
it's not the second one, because Leopold claimed the Congo as his private property.
Whoa.
So did they open the Congo and the Niger River for international navigation, or did they not draw with a ruler territories on a map?
Number 3 sounds like something they would definitely do. Yeah.
Look at today's map of Africa. Many borders are actually from that time.
Yeah.
I say A.
Yeah, is it your answer? So you say A?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, she didn't do it with a ruler in this conference. Actually, it was often, I read about that they often be assumed to do that, but they actually didn't do it on this conference. So the map looks like that, but it was not done there. So they opened the Congo and the Niger River to international navigation. We learned something, and one question wrong.
Oh no, do we still get our degrees, our diploma?
Yes, you get a degree. You're still in cum laude now. Now it's magna cum laude or cum laude. Let's see. Last question. Which European colony power was the first to prohibit the trade in slaves? Was it A, Great Britain, B, France, or C, Denmark? Who was the first who prohibited the trade in slaves?
Yes, Denmark.
I read this but forgot.
I do not know.
I
Yeah.
was going to guess England.
Yeah.
Well, England abolishes the slave trade in 1807. But in 1789, the French Declaration of Human Rights actually kind of abolishes slavery, but then it's overturned right away after.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Liberté.
So it's France in a way, even though it was very short-lived.
Denmark might have been sooner. We don't know. Do we know?
But I'm not sure whether actually the Declaration of Human Rights applied for the slave trade, you know.
Right.
It might apply, like Britain abolishes slavery on its ground in 1776 with a court case, the Somerset case. But this is only on its ground, so it doesn't abolish the trade. Then 1789, I'm not sure whether the French Declaration of Human Rights abolishes the trade or abolishes only slavery on the French.
That's a real expert, but we get him. That I'm happy in a way. No, I'm not.
I would say, like I always learned, the abolition of the slave trade is 1807 by Great Britain.
Okay.
I always learned that, but at the same time, I know that France had a kind of like period for that. So I would rather maybe 70% Great Britain.
Okay.
I'll go along with that.
70% is so far above any guess that I have.
Okay, so it's wrong. It's Denmark, but
what?
Yes, but he know the number of the Declaration of Human Rights, so I would give this point just for human rights' sake. So you answered 6 questions right, and so you managed to have a degree magna cum laude of the Impropedia. So I think it's more than ever to wish to, or how you feel now. So
I feel bad. 1792, Denmark abolishes the slave trade. I feel bad for not knowing that.
I learned so much tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Don't feel bad. It's just yes, you all have a degree. Thank you for being part of the Impropedia. Thank you for this wonderful show. I would love to stay a whole night with you, but we can't do that. 2 things. Just please, dear people out there, go on the website postkolonialpotsdam.org, and if you have joined and enjoyed this show for free because of the AStA in Potsdam, because of the students in Potsdam, giving money to Kutze, and Kutze organized this all, and we had Sarah here. She was the big brain behind all of that. So if you if you have the feeling you would give some money to put some money in a hat, then put it in the hat of That's Improv. You can donate there. They can use money over there in San Francisco. The rents are high and the weather is not always sunny. So please, if you can put some of your entertainment money over there. Okay, some people had sunny weather.
Tim, stop it. Tim, he's trying to help us. Don't kill our case. Okay.
Yes, we would. It would be wonderful. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being in Potsdam. Thanks for being in this weird Zoom improv show. Thanks, Bets.
Thank you for
Jan,
inviting
for all
us,
of that. Thanks, Sarah. And come back.
Thank
Have
you.
fun.
Nice to meet you, Jan.
Thank
Nice
you,
to meet
Jan.
you too. Thanks for your awesome
to meet you,
improv.
Jan.
Like really cool stuff.
Thank you.
So much from you too. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. I hope we see each other soon.
We hope so too.
Will do.
Thank you, and we are out.
Phew.